Hello and welcome to this construction domain session as part of the buildingSMART International Summit Singapore 2025. Thank you for joining. My name is Laura and I will be your moderator today. Today's session, we've got two different presentations. The first one is a synergy of open BIM, environment, lean principle, and last planner method for smarter project delivery. And the second one will be white paper, BIM and digital engineering for increasing efficiency in the construction process. The speakers for this session are shown on the screen. This session is scheduled to last 90 minutes, including time for questions at the end. The session is being recorded and will be made available in the replay section of the event as soon as possible. Before I hand over to our speaker, I would like to remind you that this is an hybrid event. For online attendee, your microphone will be remain muted for the duration of this session. If you wish to make a comment or ask a question, please use the chat box in the control panel. For the attendee here in the room, please keep the background noise to a minimum. And if you wish to make a comment or ask a question, please raise your hand and use a microphone. I would also like to bring your attention that buildingSMART is committed to ensuring that participation in the development of standards is unrestricted and the process for their adoption is transparent, and standards that are developed do not favor any particular provider and are open, not binding, and accessible to all. Please take note of the antitrust code of conduct. Now I would like to hand over to Velko.
Thank you. So welcome, everyone. Today I'm gonna talk about synergy of open BIM environment, lean principles, last planner method for smarter project delivery. So short introduction about myself and the company. I'm the president of Bexel. We are multinational members of buildingSMART International, and I'm also a steering committee member of building Smart International Construction Domain, together with Scott and our friends mentioned previously here. I'm also president of buildingSMART Chapter Serbia, and in Europe I'm vice chairman of Engineering Consultants Association BIM and Digitalization Committee. So FIDIC-EFCA is the name of our organization, who is also partnered with buildingSMART International. So today I'm going to talk about case study on National Football Stadium in Serbia, which is part of a larger Expo 2027 project. And I'm going to show you also some integrations, because we are involved in all projects related to Expo 2027. You will see various things, just since this is going to be the case study, just some info about the project. So project started in May last year, and it's about to be finished by the end of the next year. Investor is Ministry of Finance, and project is managed by Serbian Building Directorate. General contractor is Power China. Lead architect is Fenwick Architects. They are very famous for football design. They did several football stadiums for previous World Cup, where we also be lucky to be involved. Our role is Bexel BIM project manager. Just about the stadium, it should have around slightly more than 52,000 spectators. Should be among the top 3 greenest football stadiums in the world, and a lot of 2,500 piles. So 19,000 tons is just the steel structure, and various other interesting things about the project. So, of course, as with every project, it starts with very, very detailed BIM execution plan. I believe in total it has 300 pages. So with all processes, workflows, checklists, everything is defined there. And today I'm going to talk how we, from the pure 3D model, uh, added a lot of properties, 4D, 5D things, look ahead plans, how we track the progress. When I say we, you mean contractor and subcontractors track the progress, but and dashboards are also produced by our team. So some numbers: initial model had slightly more than 100,000 elements. Today is more than 350,000 elements. And a lot of analysis were generated in first 2 weeks last year. And then from that part, I will just recap this phase, what was done in the first 2 weeks, and focus on the progress tracking and planned versus actual earned value and other analysis produced on a regular basis. So in this first 2 weeks, just a pure BIM model was provided by Fenwick architects, no cost codes, no construction schedule, so no inputs, and a lot of analysis were done. So I'm going to just show some of them. So one is, of course, integration of federated BIM model. These are overall processes, some analysis, how they are done. So as you can see, they are always all for major standards we use, so IDS, IFC, BCF, and OpenCD. So this is the original federated model imported into Bexel Manager. And some initial analysis were done. Clash detection based on the standardized clash matrix was done in Bexel Manager. A second thing was IDS check. And all results automatically goes to BCF and are shared with all stakeholders, so in all other tools. So this is how, let's say, clash detection is done, and I will just move forward, show you an example on Bexel CD. So this is how IDS check look like, so different colors, different checks. Whenever you isolate any of these parts of the checks, you just visualize these elements on the right hand side. I think is a cost analysis, but so everything is integrated in a single ecosystem in Bexel CD. So another thing what was interesting, just for all of you, what is a standard process of our BIM execution plan is that we optimize geometry. So in this particular case, chairs not used for spectators but VIP chairs contained 65% of all triangles in the model, which is very smart. And so we have a brilliant renderings of chairs, but not very smart for our project. So thanks God, in Bexel it's possible to optimize geometry, and I think it's 50 times less, and I cannot notice a difference. Maybe some experts can, but so this is the thing we do usually. So this is just the test which checks the number of triangles, and based on pre-standardized algorithms reduce size. Of course, it's fully customizable system in order to have it more efficient. Second thing is ability to, by predefined inputs, provide cutting of the splitting of the elements. And good thing is that Bexel keeps GUI information. So next time we are importing a new version, GUIs of cut elements will remain the same. What Bexel also do is automatically recalculates all major geometry related properties. So area, volume, top surface area, bottom surface area, side area. So everything which can be extracted. Of course, for the chair, I don't know what will be extracted useful except the count of the chairs, but for the standard elements, it's very, very useful. The next thing is data enrichment, where automatically, in this case, uniformed codes are attached. So you can consider this as extended BSDD. So it's a rule-based BSDD. So based on a certain rule, so if it's a wall, it has a property bearing, it goes to B1010 in uniform. If we are using DIN 276 German standard, it will go in somewhere else. And we use this later for cost classification. So cost classification is automatically attached to the elements. You can check if it's properly done or not, and then based on that, automatic quantity takeoff is created. So this is quantity takeoff, custom breakdown structure. So you analyze the zones, subzones. You will see later why they are important. And now this is the process of cost databases. One of the ways how you can generate cost database is a Bexel system where you load a template for rules of measurement. So let's say you're coming from the United Kingdom, you're familiar with NRM2 or SMM7. So based on, again, certain criteria and BIM information, Bexel will create cost items for certain items. This is not the focus of my presentation, but in this case, in a very initial stage, slightly more than 1,300 cost items were generated. Of course, that time the model was not mature, but very useful for cost analysis. The key was the location-based smart scheduling. So don't want to elaborate this a lot, but Bexel is, let's say, quite famous with the intelligent planning engines. So basically, all zones, you just define the sequence automatically between the zones. So how floor sequence, zone sequence, sub-zone sequence relate to each other. And then you load the template of the methodology for football stadium. So you can load the methodology for different types of the projects. Of course, you can customize this. And since we've been involved, I believe if I'm correct, on 4 World Cups. Last one, now 3 stadiums are already in Saudi Arabia. Well, World Cup in 9 years. So it was easy to use some of the templates. So it says how the construction work sequence or method statement works. And Bexel then in intelligent way combine all these things and create a very detailed construction simulation with line of balances. In this case, was not so detailed, 3,000 tasks, 4,000 relationships. In reality, for example, on football stadium Al Rayyan from previous World Cup in Qatar, it had more than 60,000 tasks and 100,000 relationships. So line of balance, directions you defined, and you realize that you are going to have 2 crews to change the sequence only once, and system automatically regenerates construction schedule. And then in the first week, what was done also, since there were also another joint venture partners, so we divided up the tasks for these 2 respective subcontractors, general contractors. And then in Bexel, you can optimize per quantities, activities. Even there are some cool features like you can shrink or expand duration of parent task or entire schedule, and then the system in intelligent way keeping all relationships below, but extend durations in order to, so it's very easy to make it shorter. I don't want to say it's realistic, but it's easy to do that. So, and based on that, also you see a various line of balance charts, so assures that they are not overlapping activities and so on. And in week 2 were some fine tunings, enrichment of the model with schedule and cost data, and then publish and generation of dashboards. I believe in total 12 dashboards were interactive, automatically created. And the last 2 days, since it's a project of national importance, was literally video production for top guys in the government to show, because the videos parts of videos I'm going to show you were on the main news. So that's the reason why it has to be done in that way. So monthly look ahead plans, color schemas, how Bexel CD works, integration with Google Earth and with Expo project, and various dashboards, color schemas, quality check of construction schedule, look ahead plans, cash flow analysis, and so on. And these are just parts of the videos. So that's, let's say, construction simulation in Bexel Manager, very detailed how it looks like. Cost is hidden here, but percentage is below. Then it's a drone image. This was done later. So, and then you overlap a BIM model, and so you can understand how it looks like. Then it's integration of Expo and National Football Stadium. Of course, there are much longer videos than various color schemas. You can see here with the timeliner integrated. Then you can also overlap in Unreal Engine. You can see below camera and 4D simulation from Bexel Manager with Unreal Engine. So you can understand how this is going to be built. And this is now Bexel CD. So whenever I click on each element, I see the quantities, and this is line of balance, Gantt chart. This is the dashboard, look ahead plans. Below are the quantities for each day. This is a simulation, how it's going to work. So Bexel has around 200 different dashboards, so which are built. And then Power China use the SharePoint portal, and these are some dashboards again in Bexel generated but shared in a SharePoint. And I have to say, for more than 6 months, the client decided not to use papers anymore. So it was funny when I was traveling 3 months ago to Riyadh to show how football stadium, because they are very important now, football stadiums for Saudis. And I asked the team to share with me some paper reports, PDFs, and they said, we don't have it. And I said, can you create one just to show? This is how Unreal Engine and Bexel Manager works. Again, this is more for marketing purposes, but nevertheless is useful to see how you're going to build a project and so on. So these are some of the benefits. You overlap with the, I don't know, Google Earth or so on equipment, and so you have understanding how it's going to be built. So this is since we are at buildingSMART, I can talk a bit more about what BCF server is. So it's our own BCF server, fully based on open BCF standard. So we have BCF server and BCF client, fully based on open BCF standard. What are the differences? There are some concepts which does not exist in BCF today. What are these concepts? Let's say you cannot attach documents, or in comments you cannot have documents attached. So use cases, I select some elements and see all related documents to, let's say, structural elements in the last floor and so on. Or I can also have a BCF within BCF. So I send you a look ahead plan, and then I send back what are the works I claim to be done that week, and this could be done in a single thread. Another use case is the document approval. So I can select the elements and structural elements, foundation elements, let's say, and see all approved and not approved documents yet. So these are the benefits of this extension of BCF. There are some other things, like for a clash detection, we have some special statuses which are not supported with BCF. So if you directly export or import data, this information will be lost. But we are now developing, everything else will remain, of course, but we are now having for Revit, for Navisworks, we are now developing for Graphisoft and Civil 3D. Of course, for Bexel Manager already exists client application, so that you can handle even these things. So this is the core of communication and the central hub for everything. So for safety issues, quality issues, look ahead plans. And so this is the core of, you will see later, of everything in the system. And this is just a simple workflow used originally. Then I'm going to show you some innovation. So I'm a planner directly from Bexel Manager. I send a look ahead plan, what has to be done next month. Usually it's next week. Of course, I have comments on the right-hand side, discussions. And then, for example, field engineer said some documents are missing. they are not approved. Then design manager start document approval process. And in this case, since it has an impact on the cost, it must be also approved on a multi-level approval system by design manager. So we see old version, new version of the document. The design manager start this document approval process, choose which documents needs to go to that document approval. There could be also discussion, please provide to me additional documents, but everything is saved in a centralized system. So next time I click on a single element or group of the elements here, and I filter by element selected, it will, among the other things, show me this discussion. So if any dispute happen later, we know that. So this is now field the engineer sees the document is approved, and this is look ahead plan with the quantities. And he now see literally the same thing, what he has to do on the site. You see later some improvements, and now he had to manually deselect some columns, which are not done as it was planned, and send this to supervisor to verify if these works are done. Again, everything is centralized system, and in Croatia, for example, main ministries use Bexel for full, even PDF documents with all this communication history are generated in order for the European Commission, if they want to verify this, they can automatically generate reports from Bexel. So now supervisors see what's claimed by general contractor, and he can say, I do not agree with this, please provide to me additional photos or inspection checks. And in this ideal scenario, he said, oh, I made some photos, everything is okay. We didn't want to show not ideal scenarios. Data directly goes to Bexel manager. You see again, the PCF client here is the same history of communication, who sent what, when, where, the documents and everything else. And you will see you are also able to just load this BCF. Bexel automatically knows the quantities, is there is a full cost database connected to each single element, and you just define the interval, and you will see the detailed, in this case, monthly progress, literally monthly payment certificates. So all these tiny numbers are represented part of monthly progress certificate. You see a planned versus actual. Gantt chart, the system automatically update the schedule. And this is how one of the dashboards is automatically generated. So this is delay analysis and earned value analysis. Only cost is hidden because we do not have permission to share cost, but quantities are there. So you can see, isolate easily on the dashboard just one part of the project. I see who worked more efficiently, less efficiently. It even shows me the delays in a very detailed manner. So blue ones means it's built, but with some delay. Green ones means on time, dark green earlier than it was planned. And whenever you filter something, you immediately see all this analysis. So everything seems good, but we were not satisfied. And we said, okay, what we can do better. And we were thinking, analyzing various things, and we said, okay, let's allow planner, although we have a very detailed construction schedule, of course, could be also imported from Primavera and P6 or a Microsoft project, but in that case, a lot of things are not very good because usually these schedules are not structurized well, locations are not well defined, various other things not, but even with the very detailed structurized schedule generated in Bexel, it does not allow us flexibility on site. So we divided up the process into two things. Gantt chart, or this flow line, is for strategic planning, and TACT plan is for tactical planning on operational level. So the process goes like this. You always start with the strategic plan and then drag and drop, you will see later, a task in a TACT planner. When it's moved into TACT planner, then TACT planner is crucial for execution of this task. All remaining tasks are still remain in strategic planner. So it means whenever I change strategic planner tasks, they will not affect my tactical plan. I know now it's relatively complicated, but I'll show you how it works. And what was another goal is that it allows superintendents of each subcontractor in an easy way to report progress, coordinate activities, and everything else. So I'm going to now start with how we have this what's called tact plan canvases in a project. So for example, we usually divide up the project in a distinct planning, detailed planning section. So for example, structural works. They are not having impact on my finishing works because they are usually going to be done much faster. And I don't want to see all subs and my coordination meeting because they are not going to overlap activities and they are not going to interfere each other. The second very important thing, if you have Expo, there are 12 buildings in Expo. Usually this coordination meeting will be done for each building. So they don't really need to sit down together and coordinate my third floor on a football stadium and first floor on, I don't know, another building. So this is how canvases are generated. And then for each canvas, we have usually a project manager who oversees the process, planner. We have superintendents who coordinates all activities, supervisor. In our region, it's mandatory, could be also representative of general contractor or owner who controls the quality. And then for each sub-superintendent, he could delegate this. So if I'm a facade worker, I don't know how to use laptop, I can delegate this to, let's say, my lead contractor above me so that he can do the things. We usually define that it's done on a weekly basis, but could be any other interval, daily, bi-weekly, and so on. And then we also develop, and you will see later, this is very important, the way how you will divide the original task into subtasks in my project. So for example, if I have a task painting the walls on the second floor, I can choose the option, divide up this below per apartment or per space. And I'll show you this example. And also for a pile, since piles are very expensive, we will divide up per a single element of piles. So, but you can define a chainage or any other information. So how the process works, as I explained, you drag and drop a single task or group of the task from above, and then system automatically creates subtasks. In this particular example, I think it's going to be shown in this much better. So from a single task, I don't know, 4C pile section, system, because it knows there are 9 piles in that, and division was chosen by GUID ID, he will create 9 subzones automatically. And by knowing the cost information, which is not necessary, you can even without cost define sub-activities in Bexel. He knows that there are 5 sub-activities for this, let's say, pile. It's pile drilling, soil disposal, pouring concrete, steel reinforcement, and pile head breaking. So, and then Bexel from a single task will create 45 subtasks, 9 multiplied by 5. So this is original. Then you will see later, after, so the next step is that you organize, you will see how it looks like a coordination meeting. So this is just a single task. You will drag another tasks, and then superintendent lead the meeting with all subs and shows them you are going to work there 3 hours. Let's reorder. We have water in a pile 8. Let's move it below and do it last. Can you do it faster? Or let's say we have a problem. The guys of, I don't know, concrete pouring team are ill, so can we reorder the activities or have a working Saturday or so on in order to meet everything which is expected. When its discussion is finished, it's locked and sent to everyone. So this is agreed, very detailed plan on really hourly level. This was missing in a previous Bexel system. We automatically from Gantt chart send this, but we were not allowed and it was not so easy. So usually the notes were made about this. So another benefit of this is, okay, I'll explain later, but just to know, since Bexel knows the quantities, we can see if these are balanced quantities. Because it looks perfect like this, you have like a stair system, but maybe some piles are much larger. And some apartments are penthouses and we have studios. And we say, oh, 1 day per, per painting of apartment, and then later we have a cow. So you will see with various charts you can control this. So later, another key problem, although it looks very nice, you see a look-ahead plan, just deselect some elements or use a point cloud. It was very difficult for subcontractors to explain to them what BIM is, not how to use Bexel. So we now are switching completely to mobile and tablet applications with literally, since it's so, granulation is so high, even by clicking the element, here, let's say, I poured concrete into that pile, it's good enough. Or I can say it's 50% finish and so on. Planner and superintendent defines granularity. So let's say I was 2 weeks ago in one of our big clients and they literally do per apartment level. So they said we never enter information that that wall is finished 30% and that wall in that apartment is 70. We usually say it's 170, 30. We really don't care if that wall or that wall in that apartment is finished. This allows literally the superintendent of that sub to claim their works on a mobile app without opening BIM model. Of course, if he has a desktop version, he can literally, by clicking on single task, see that element or group of the elements in the BIM model. So he can now change percentages of completeness, and then these percentages automatically goes to supervisor. So he knows what was claimed. Good thing is behind all this system is BCF and communication BCF server. So I can claim something. I can say I have not finished this because there were water there, or there were some other issues, or I don't know, some guy put something, some ladders there, so I could not have access. You name it. But the same goes with the supervisor. I can say I do not accept these works. Here are photos. It looks dirty. I performed inspection checklists, so it was not done. So, but everything is transparent. And at the end, people love this. Although you think they don't, they love this because they are all focused to do their job, not to be prepared for the court. So we want them to focus that because it's a win-win scenario for everyone. What is another benefit of this approach is that what we call in a marketing way, you have a total project awareness. So by selecting some elements, you see now apartment above, again, my BCF integration comes into play. So I can just say filter to me all document sets, transmittals and submittals related to the selected elements. I see the latest drawings. I can see if some drawings are not approved. I can see everything. I can even raise the issue here. The next thing is clash detection. Someone will say, we should have a clash-free model. I never saw a clash-free model. But it's much better if I know that I have, you will see here, drill some piles for pipes. I can be prepared. And to be honest, from an investor perspective, we can lower the costs of the claims because we can say to the guys, okay, sorry, we have not solved the clashes, but we shown you what you have to do. Of course, you will be paid for this, but as you know, good subs, what they do, know the worst design solution and immediately go there, start working there, because they will have a higher claims then. As you know, that's how they got their money. So we try to prevent this. But you see also the quantity takeoff for selected elements. You know how much paint you need to have. You have a safety issues. I'll show you some examples. You can have a quality issues and everything is related there. So these are examples. So this is latest approved documentation, and these are the clashes. In this case, very ideal scenario, only pipes, vertical pipes has to be drilled into slab. But still, you can count this. Even if they ask for additional works, you can literally, by just selecting these elements, count the number of these additional boreholes and approve them as additional money. Yeah, I can show you. Yeah, it's I show you how it works. Yeah. Okay, so that's another good thing. Of course, point clouds are very useful. I show you some examples in a couple of slides. So another thing, now I have to enter progress again. I can attach, I have to protect myself, all photo documentation, all issues. Let's say there were water inside, or soil was not okay, or I don't know, the quality of previous work were not done, or there were any safety issue. So I can justify why I have not performed some works. And again, supervisor usually have a photo documentation, quality issues, inspection tests, and checklists. So he can justify why he rejected to accept some of your works. Honestly, we tried that it's a win-win scenario, that everybody's focused on their work. Usually, unfortunately, without this being transparent, we are focusing on how to pretend that I told you that, or I thought you know that, or you know, it was not good, and so on. So you are here having all these things transparent. And just to mention again, in Croatia, for example, because automatically PDF with all this communication history, documents used in a discussion, who said what, when, who approved the documents, are automatically generated in a very customized format, so in any language, any form, and so on. So what they do at the end, print all these BCFs, PDF excerpts from them, and put them in their archives, because of course Bexel is still not approved, as they still need to have a paper documents. But that's another possibility. So this is an example when I, for example, as you can see, this is a very rusty reinforcement for pile. So I can make a photo and say that's why I have not done this today, because that was rusty reinforcement element. And then someone can say, but you can use next one, or we will bring it tomorrow. So history of communication is there. A simplified way is where we do already have good organization of the task. So in this case, I don't know, it's a floor toppings and coating. So in this case, since it's already a single task, when I drag drop this task below, it's gonna subdivide into 6 subzones on that floor. So it's not gonna generate 45, but only 6 subtasks. Again, what is good thing with this, superintendent, these are literally element properties in IFC file. So in Bexel, you can automatically, with the containment system, attach to each element in a space property in which space this is, and then use that property so automatically to have these 6 sub elements. Or you can manually add properties to the elements and organize them, make mass selection, and so on. What is also important, if you can see here some gaps, these are buffers. So who of you is experienced expert in planning, you know that you always need to have buffers. Because why? These are important, because if I'm late in one apartment, I cannot hit all other subs. So I need to have some time, usually during weekend or in the evening, the guys will compensate these delays, but in optimal planning system, you need to have some buffers, and they are intentionally there. But what's good thing is that Bexel, as you can see, these durations of the tasks are different, because Bexel know that in some areas, floor coating is 30 square meters, in some zones is 70. Of course, you can always fine-tune this before this is formally approved and accepted. And below, you see this ideal scenario. So each crew, where they are working each week. You can see also this in a Gantt chart. So this is how, for example, we see a clashes, again related. These are latest drawings, so not necessarily one, but group of the drawings. We can see a status. We can see even original version and the latest version. So we can say, okay, originally we had to do that, now we had to do some more stuff and so on. But the idea is that the time I approve documents, there is no additional work. I will automatically see them. The only requirement is then when I'm having a document approval, if it makes sense and it's related to BIM, I need just to select the elements related to that. When I do it once, it will keep it and use it in all use cases. So another benefit, of course, if I'm on a tablet, usually I'm not going to open a BIM model. I can, but it's not very easy to look at this. But if I'm using a desktop, so when I click on a single subtask here, yellow here are highlighted the areas I have to perform the work, let's say today, tomorrow, and so on. And above are all BCFs filter related to this. So these are documents. So I selected all the elements in that apartment. I see where that apartment is, and I can see all the documents related. Since we have a very detailed cost estimate, so for all these activities below is a very detailed cost estimate. So I know the quantities of materials, works I have to perform. Don't need to ask anyone. So that's what we call in a marketing way, total project awareness. Okay, these are even some safety routes. Okay, different colors, so you can analyze which task is related to which BIM model elements, different zones and sub-zones. This is an example, real example, some clashes with pile caps. I don't know who did this, usually it's not, but this is real example from the site. These are the issues I already mentioned. Look ahead, so project documentation, latest version of documents. So just even for because in Bexel you don't have a top-down approach, you can have it, but have a bottom-up. Why it's important? So literally for each pile we have a quantity takeoff. It's not just top-down, oh, it's 1,000 cubic meters. When I see 1,500, 3,000, I know it's not true. So here you see literally 57, I don't know, cubic meters of concrete has to be executed. What is also important, this is original plan, and you will see now, because of the efforts and everything else, how the plan looks in reality. So we will have 2 crews for pile drilling and only 1 crew for reinforcement, concrete pouring, and disposal. So you have organized this, and above system is beside integration with Power BI. Now we have business intelligence dashboard, so very customizable analytic system with 1 or more charts and more versions. And then we can see for each subtask how are the quantities balanced or not. Okay, it's relatively ideal case. All piles are the same, so it was not complicated to see that the quantities of the works for each day are almost the same, but in reality, there will be ups and downs. So the meeting is organized, and then everybody has to agree about this. And even what we have in a workflow, even if I, as a superintendent, I'm about on Tuesday to make any change by knowing that some subs cannot come on site, it's saved as a new version. So we have a history. Even I, as a main guy, cannot make changes by myself, because then the others will not trust that we all agree on this. So there is always a history of this. Then a superintendent for each, of course, we need to define which superintendent is for which company or subcontractor, and then he can just select the elements here or on mobile and make the progress. He also should change durations when the works is executed, were actually executed, and that's very useful for efficiency and productivity analysis. And then the system, when it's approved, automatically notification goes to supervisor, and he sees what was claimed. And he can make a photo, I disagree with this, or whatever he wants. And this is now to Lex answer questions. So this is a point cloud example. So you can also integrate point clouds and see them, and they are very useful even in a look ahead plan, because I can see that some utilities were installed on the wrong location. So be fully aware of that. And this is thing we are working on also on, is the ability to, with the AI Bexel algorithms, recognize automatically the executed works. But I will say it's never going to be 100%. Let's say, I don't know how is it English, we have in our language first and second hand of painting. I cannot imagine that any software can recognize that first or second hand of painting is finished. And a number of other edge cases exist, but by seeing this point clouds helps a lot. But we will also have this system in the future. Then when the data is approved, so all approved TAC planning entries go directly into Bexel Manager, and the system automatically calculate percentages, earned value analysis, and generate some delays in schedule. So in our system, is not like in a P6. In P6, you can, maybe that's polite, but you can lie. Turn off time engine, and then you have a negative float, which cannot exist, but in P6, you can have it. So because you want always to show to the boss that you are going to be in time. In Bexel, it's a bit different. So you move the schedule based on your delays, but then you as a planner has to manually adjust this because you're liable, not P6. I cannot say, oh, P6 told me it's going to be on time. So this is the workflow. But then later, again, just to repeat this, if I'm late, I'm about to compensate these delays in the future. Anytime in the future I drag the tasks not used in a tactical planning, they will be according to the latest version. So, but only the things which are already dragged into tact plan, because then really if I adjust when I have to do some things here, I don't want to change them by new version of this. So these are some reports, and this is, for example, situation, how simulation looks like, and again, unfortunately or fortunately, politicians are there. So we had situation in January, you see real delays, and then big guys said, but we must do that even faster than it was originally planned. And general contractor Power China, by using Bexel, showed them something. they are now trying to compensate. So you will see that although there were obvious delays, at the end they will make it faster. And then politicians went into main news, said, I am now convinced that we will make it faster. Yeah. Okay, but so you can see how this works. And yeah, I'm going to skip this, but believe me, it's now faster. And this is now the sum of the dashboard. So this is an example with, let's say, with with Gantt chart. So one of the built-in dashboards where delay analysis are made. And I have to say that the head managing director of Serbian Building Directorate, who is in charge of this, I was speaker in one conference where he was literally presenting the things like that. So I was really honestly surprised. He's an excellent engineer, really project manager, very experienced structural engineer, but he literally used this to explain where the project is. And his comment was that, you know, of course, there are millions of challenges on the project, but I at least always know where I am. So you can filter delayed activities per zone, per color schemas. So it's a full interactive system. And you can filter the quantities you would like to see, cubic meters, kilos, and the system automatically is changed. This is just one of the dashboards. And last but not least, with the AI assistant, you can ask various questions. So show me, for example, the weeks where we were least efficient, or so show me how we can have to increase productivity in order to meet milestones. Show me the least efficient subcontractor, and so on. So that's it. So thank you for your attention. All your questions are most welcome.
First of all, it's amazing, Velko, what this can do. But if I upload all my models, and I have different building stories, different zones, we can run the script to visualize the Gantt chart, and then from one line item, you make the task specific for the last planner method for the construction site to do the detailed planning for on the hour or on the day.
Yes.
But if it change from the beginning, does it all moves with the main task, all the detailed and the second question is if it takes longer, does all the other tasks that looks like the same task move with them? So that if you have like a repetitive task.
Okay, so good question. So literally in the beginning, Canvas, this task planning is empty. So only I can automatically say drag and drop everything, but for the next week, but it's only for a near future, never for, because really I don't know what I will do in a 3 months Monday morning. So you always manage the near future, 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, or 1 week is fully finished, confirmed, accepted, and we have just a part of the task for the second week. A second thing I forgot to mention, you have the same option in Task Planner to keep relationships from original. So some planners prefer to have relationships because they are get used to them. For some, it's easier to select, multitask, and move them left and right because they are confused when they change something, you change something else. And because so we have optional, but there is possibility to use the same relationships from the top to keep them below. Any other question?
So it's a very good presentation, so very impressive. Question I had is, I guess, when you develop your schedule or your program and your plan, and you start refining it and you're linking it to the model to visualize it. For example, if you have a slab and you want to then visualize the pores, do you actually split the model within Bexcel? So
Yes.
to visualize, so you have the ability to split the models.
Yes.
Yep.
You have ability to split the models. And as I mentioned in the beginning, not just that, but next time it's imported, he will keep the GUIDs. So you assemble, now we saw from Leon, I don't know who was there about IFC5, but I'm talking about the still IFC 4.3. So you are able to, this will be saved as an assembly with the same original GUID, and if you have not changed the element, even the sub-assembly elements will keep the GUIDs in the future, and the quantities, all geometry quantities, which are very important, will be calculated.
And all the sub-zones and the zones.
Exactly,
yep.
Exactly. And even the properties will be added to these elements in order to have easier selection set. But just to mention, comparing to other tools like Navis, there is no manual process where you select the elements and attach to the task. By automatic generation, these connections are automatically made. So that's why we could produce in a literally in one day this 4D, 5D simulation.
I've got a cynical question. So I've been working in construction for 25 years. I've never seen anybody plan a project like that. So the question I have is, how soon can we get Croatian contractors to come and work in Asia and start delivering projects? Because my challenge is that you would have to change the culture of a business to be able to use a tool as effectively as that. How have you managed to promote the actual business transformation to actually make use of these tools?
Great question. I'll tell you honestly, in Europe, I believe it's also in other parts of world. Do you know sticker system?
Yeah.
Where your
Glass planner.
Yeah. Let's say Strabag, POR, everyone is using this system. The only problem is when they want to change something, they do a lot of things manually, and it's not connected to Gantt chart at all. So I will quote one friend of mine from one of those two companies I mentioned. He said, then we send all this, literally what they make a photo, and that's how they coordinate. Send the photo with all stickers to that's how, and use WhatsApp, and that's coordination process. But then I said, how you update the progress and Gantt chart, and for any claims, said we send this to our guys in some basement, and in 3 months they'd get up with the new data to us. Literally, I quoted them, and what we just connected these two worlds, nothing else. So it's literally the same, and we tested this with, let's say, I haven't mentioned, but maybe are now around among the largest 50 contractors in the world. Half of them use Bexcel. I don't want to say that all of them are enterprise users, so then you don't use it on all projects. Some of them are, but the feedback is more or less everybody really is satisfied with this. We are still in testing phase for this, but feedback is very good. And I can say from Asia, I mean, India, Middle East, Europe, US, feedback is quite good. So we hope they are gonna accept this and use it on all their projects.
Question. To exchange this planning back to, for example, a supplier, you plan the objects, for example, the hollow core slabs, and then you change the plan. And can you export an IFC file combined with the IFC task related IFC functionality? Those are the IFC task items. So they import it into their system, for example, Synchro or Catenda.
I think we have this ability. We tested this with Synchro. To be honest, since only we and Synchro are using this, but there is also a Norwegian software. I forgot now the name.
The Catenda, I think the Catenda. If you upload,
Catenda, Catenda is. But since majority of users, our users, are not asking for this, I don't know how this is mature, but I know the tests with both Catenda and Synchro we did, and it worked.
Cool.
But definitely it has to be improved because usually our users are not using.
And also the cost items. So you
Yes,
cost and the
yes.
planning, are they both exported with the IFC schema?
Yeah, yes, I believe so, but definitely I have to be honest, it's not updated for a significant amount of time because users not ask, but definitely I fully support this. It's much more valuable than simple Excel. Good question. Yeah. Thank you very much again for your attention. And now I'll give the word to Scott to talk about a white paper we worked on together.
As the technology's being swapped over, how many people here work for construction companies? Okay, how many work for consulting companies? What else is there? All right, are there architects here? Okay, shall I go then structural engineers? Subcontractors? Okay, anyway, just good to get a feel of the room. I'm Scott Beasley. I was around for a presentation this morning. You might have guessed I come from Australia. All the Tim Tams biscuits I brought were, I think, consumed this morning. So alas, there are none this afternoon. But in the last session, in the construction domain, we'll be talking about the white paper, which is, I think, honestly, a work in progress at the moment. I've joined the construction domain quite recently, but the other 5 faces you see on the screen there, Ken, Jorge, our colleague here, Konstantinos, and Ricardo have been in the construction domain for quite some time. So anyway, the white paper is underway. There's table of contents, which I suppose looks like a pretty normal type of white paper. This was presented, I suppose, in an earlier form at the Marrakesh summit, but we've been kind of reviewing and polishing and adding some other things to it. So you can see there the case study number 1. I'm sure you're quite familiar with that we've seen in the first presentation. There's other components to that. So with a report like this, there are kind of pretty standard things, but this is the website of the construction domain. Basically, it's on the website, you can go to it, and the purpose is fundamentally to make building better. There's also key objectives, and so they're 4 reasonably straightforward ones. I don't think there's a need really to discuss them too much, but advance the digital nature of construction. I think that's why we're here. Develop site environment best practices based on OpenBIM. Again, things are changing there. Provide OpenBIM education to the construction industry and incorporate forward-looking construction technologies. And I think the presentation just now showed the application of some of that. I won't read all this out, but basically there's an overview summarizing there are problems that we need to overcome. And so how might we go about approaching those? And that's why using some case studies to see how people have addressed issues are part of the white paper. And then looking at further strategies and other things that we could sort of bring to bear in the construction area. There's an executive summary, again, problem, solution, and use cases. And I think the concept of use cases is a really valuable one, and we'll talk about that just a little bit. So you've probably seen a diagram like this. We need to base things, all of our conversations on ISO standards, because as an international community, we actually use software which often is not created in the country where we're from. So we work in a global environment. So we have global software and need to conform to ISO standards. And again, if you've been part of buildingSMART for any period of time, you've seen this sort of diagram where buildingSMART has created a whole range of different, as we found out yesterday, standards and also services that help bring things together. And I suppose the thing is, these are all good theories. How do we actually sort of bring them together? So the use case, the first one in the document is really the football stadium that Waco just presented. I'll just flick through these pretty quickly because you've seen the content and you've got a far greater understanding of what's there. There's a web link there which they'll be able to see. You can see the video as well, or some of the videos. So the pre-construction, the contract stage, how it actually helped in a number of ways, the post-construction, and then a few, I suppose, metrics for what difference that actually made. So I think the value of the case studies is it brings a condensed view on a real project and what are the outcomes as it's perhaps underway in pre-construction or during construction or then after it's completed. There was a second case study by Ferrovial, and they looked at a range of different projects from different parts of their company, some in different parts of in different countries, and they took quite a different approach to their case study because they looked at the benchmarks across a whole range of different sorts of projects. So, and then dividing it in analysis by, you can see those three areas there: people, processes, and tools. And in a series of, so these are just snippets from the case study, just to sort of show some of the analyses that they had created, the benefits that they had derived from actually using different technologies with their people and processes, and how that affected their workflow. In a case like this, there's a contractor in, pardon me, in Chile. So again, using the expertise from different places. So this diagram here shows without BIM, level 2 BIM, level 3 BIM. Hopefully it should actually make a difference, and therefore being able to measure that and demonstrate that is quite worthwhile. Again, other metrics that they had, time and cost, and the variations there. Pardon me. So one thing we're trying to promote with the white paper is that as there are many other wonderful projects which are being worked on around the world, if we had some consistent criteria that people could then use against them, we can then add to the variety of case studies because it would be relevant for everyone. The third case study is associated with CDE management in the construction phase. And so in a case like this, just showing how things could work in different ways. We've had people talk about CDEs and the open CDE API with buildingSMART, but of course people use varying software to connect in different ways. So this is just showing, or in the case study, investigating how this was applied in the construction phase. I won't go into this in too much detail. It's in the paper document. I'd like to get to the time we could have for some discussion. This also mentioned other productivity improvements. So what advanced technologies could we actually bring to the site? Robotics, scanning, things like that. How we deal with digital twins, which is probably one of those really ambiguous terms that we all use in different ways. How we deal with information at the O&M phase and lifecycle utilization. So of course they're all big areas. They're all large lumps of theory. How do we actually make some sense of it? Well, one way is being able to use some use cases, and use case management, that part of buildingSMART where it's formalized what used to be, I suppose, IDMs or MVDs, put in a way that makes it a bit more applicable and targeted. So I think use cases and how they're being developed is a really valuable thing to look at for your part of the industry. And so in the construction phase, as we've seen in the stadium project, there are so many different components to actually a construction project. Having detailed and applicable use cases for them describes in a formalized way how those relationships are actually created. And I think one great use of IDS is connected to this as well. So IDS is not just something that you make up, but it's actually part of your strategy in terms of exchange requirements and the process as well. And this is a pretty dense little diagram. It's in the working paper as well, but it starts to show all the different components that actually go to that. And I won't go into this in detail at the moment, but again, we could have conversations afterwards as well. Now, how do we actually kind of make some sense of some of this? And so, apologies, Laura, these are the slides, unapproved slides I've slipped in. Hopefully I haven't trodden on too many people's toes. So in this case, there's a need for some proposed guidelines for contractors. Fundamentally, how do you de-risk a project with sort of applying some of this stuff? So I'd like to think that, you know, at the bottom there's the ISO and the BSI standards, and you can see the bunch of them there. I made these boxes, I didn't fill them up with all the words, because it may well be that over time other standards or services gets added to them. Sort of built on that, there are use cases. And so we've got kind of a foundation, then we've got the next layer that's actually being built. Fundamentally, these get applied to domains. So if you're building airport, bridges, roads, etc., people are at the moment using those technologies to actually create those things. And in some ways, the people who actually physically build them and plan for them are in this middle bit, the construction domain. And I think that's the area where basically the construction domain really has an opportunity to make a contribution. And I should also point out that in the BSI domains, there are more domains than I've shown right there. Under the construction domain, there seems to be, I think, at least sort of 5 different areas where we can help contractors in projects. So one is to develop minimum modelling guidance. Contractors I've spoken with always have the frustration that the documents that they receive from upstream are badly formed or incomplete, or there are problems there. And so they've got to kind of do a lot of process work to actually get them to be of any use to them. So any contractors here faced issues like that, or is everything perfect that comes from upstream? All right, nothing's perfect. Okay. So being able to then sort of say, inside our organization, now that we've got this information, we've got to kind of formalize this. Or if we had the opportunity of going back upstream, here's what we need. What I mentioned before about the use cases, targeting the use cases for that sort of project and that sort of contract. So that's an area where I think the construction domain could actually assist considerably. Also, there's level of construction models. What I mean by that is that there are differences in models, and I'm sure we're all aware of them, but if we talk about them in terms of being design intent models and construction models, they're quite different things. And even during construction, the models need to be increased in their information that they contain and how they're arranged. So as we saw in the stadium project, data got added, data got rearranged, construction, work areas got changed as well. So construction models are not just one thing, but need to kind of vary over time. And people, I think, in our industry need to appreciate that and understand that. There's the open BIM education area, which is one of the fundamentals. And I think things like that are really, we can focus on, and quality case studies. And I should have gone to this slide before, I suppose, where it shows some of the detail of those different areas. So in the construction domain, those areas where we could actually focus on to provide some assistance. It would be good to get some feedback from the contractors in particular about are these areas that adequately address the issues you're facing, or are there other components that need to get added, or are some just irrelevant? Because I think the 4 lines at the bottom there are the key objectives, and I think the whole aim of the construction domain is to address those 4. And so those 5 areas there, I think in the future, the work of the white paper will be to uncover these and lead to greater advice coming back. I think with case studies, there's a great opportunity for linking them with the buildingSMART awards, so that the criteria that we ask for people to submit would be then sort of tied to that, and then we could then add them to the quality of the case studies tied to the construction domain in particular. Okay, call to action. I know it's getting late in the day and you're probably ready for other activities. So what could a contractor do? I think to actually get digitally ready is quite an important thing. So to develop an internal capability which actually demonstrates that you understand this, and you actually would then be prepared for new forms of contract. So when, if a client came and said, how can we do this better? You could say, you could demonstrate things. So having the software, having the people trained up, being able to trial things in-house so that you're confident about what's going on. I think there's a range of work that contractors could do. I know the problem in contracting companies is that there's the pressure of time and cost, because there's no time to do it because we have to make money and survive this project. But to develop that capability, even in a small way on projects and build on that, is quite important. That means you've got some runs on the board to advocate for adoption by your clients, because when they say, can we do this better, you could have some suggestions. By combining with other colleagues here, sharing information through best practices, and in a sense, we need to grow this ecosystem, the people who are contributing to construction projects in the great variety of people. To recognize best practice when you see it and track people down. Go, that was a great job. How do we sort of take advantage of that? And of course, the whole point is to de-risk projects through using OpenBIM. The white paper has some conclusions. I won't read those out, but basically saying, let's do something. There are problems that we need to address, and by using interoperable standards, it's worth doing. And so there's a range of people who've contributed to this. Laura's there as well, and Richard Kelly is part of our group. And let's get involved. So it would be good to, the white paper will be a work in progress, will be published soon, I think. And it'll be out for comments, and we would love your comments and suggestions on how it could be improved. So I think that's all of that for the moment. If you'd like to ask any questions or talk to me afterwards, most welcome. So, okay. So do we have some questions here? And here are our colleagues online. So Laura, could you tell us who's who? Yeah. Well, I can't see it. I've got this. Oh, Waco.
Okay.
Top
Hi,
left.
hi Ricardo. Hi Ken. Hi Jorge. Great to see you. Is Konstantinos with us? No.
No.
Okay. Yeah. Can you introduce yourself, please?
Hello, my name is Ricardo Munguia. I'm the Global Head of Digital Construction in Ferrovial Construction.
Thank you. Ken?
Hi, I'm Ken Endo from Kojima. I missed you, and then I'm quite want to add in person, but I'm sorry, here in my office. Thank you.
Jorge, please. Can you hear us, Jorge?
George, your turn.
He cannot.
Okay, while we're waiting, are there any questions from the floor? Surely there's got to be one from the front row.
Ricardo, Ken, would you like to add something? Jorge?
No, I think we are almost on time. The presentation was clear. The white paper has been strong work, mainly with Ken and Scott, and they have been pushing and Konstantinos. And I think it will help many contractors to understand the benefits of open BIM and BIM implementation worldwide during the construction phase. That's what we are looking for.
Yeah, for me, creating the ecosystem based on the open BIM is very difficult but very creative. So the sharing your own the way is very important, and then facilitate all those activities are the main role. So please join our activity. Thank you.
Yeah, just a question. I guess the white paper is quite general at the moment, but I guess is the plan to start going into a more detail about some of the specific areas that apply to contractors? So quantity takeoff, planning, survey. So these are some specific areas where open BIM can play a big part. And I guess each of those have some very specific, for a contractor, really not understanding how to utilize BIM in those areas. You know, there's a lot of education that needs to take place, particularly with open BIM. So is that the plan in the future, to start going into a bit more detail, whether it's quantity takeoff, planning, survey, that sort of area?
Certainly. And that's why being able to focus those areas around use case management, I think is really the kind of the way to go, because it will mean that we've got a more integrated method, which has, you know, a process map. It's got an IDS attached to that, so it would provide some advice for those activities associated with construction. Certainly.
If I may just add, you have Konstantinos is not with us, unfortunately, today, from Zublin Strabag, but essentially we within buildingSMART International have a framework use case management, and a lot of use cases are already produced, which gives guidelines how to implement some workflows like you mentioned. Also, and a good example of collaboration, and we have a official collaboration of buildingSMART International with them, is with the association in Europe. For example, it's called Anchored, where, for example, Ferrovial and some of the largest leading contractors in Europe are members, and couple of technology members. We are together with them there in this association, and we work a lot together discussing all these very difficult questions and common issues and try to find solution. If I just may add one thing, all need to be aware of is that in terms of project management, construction projects are by far most difficult one. So sending rover to Mars is piece of cake in terms of project management. I'm not saying about single task, can be maybe much more complex than painting a wall, but in terms of number of stakeholders, challenges, risks, communications, level of detail of Gantt charts, it's unbelievable. Safety and you name it. So that's why we really need the technology, and that's why it's not wrong to say that even today on 90% of the projects, Excel is still the only tool used, and we have to even paper on some. But that's why maybe for us in construction domain and for all of you involved in construction phase, it's a huge task in front of us and huge job we have to do, and it's not easy. But just why this is the value of this. There was one huge research in Finland couple of years ago. Finland is one of the most efficient countries in terms of construction in the world. And they measured the efficiency of the workers on site. And result was 15%, not 50, 15% is actual efficient work of workers on site. And when I was at Stanford SciFi, talking with Martin, CEO of SciFi, 2 years ago, I mentioned this number, and he said, no, you're wrong. I said, no, Martin, it is really, we participated, and that's research, and 15 is real number. And he told me our findings are 8%. So this is not because I'm not a structural and construction engineer. And I originally thought, the guys in industry are not the best ones. But reality is because it is so complex. And that's why in order to coordinate this, and we need to have good tools. That's why if you're, for example, invited now to be a speaker on a lot of project management conferences, not the other guys, because honestly, in terms of project management, we are facing with the most of the challenges. So that's why we have to answer to these difficult questions.
Okay. Any other questions? Oh, wow. Great.
But do you want to provide all the general contractors with templates for information protocol, exchange information requirements, task information delivery? You mentioned all the documents from the ISO 19650 process in your slides, but you want to provide for general contractors maybe templates how to use those files or agreements to put it into their process, or what products roll out of this white paper after that you can really help them?
I think that would be probably an overreach on our part. At this stage, I think it would be good just to focus on how to get a good quality model created for construction purposes. And it's not a very high aim, I don't think, in terms of transforming industry, but I think it must be the first step. It doesn't matter how sharp your planning tool is. If things aren't described well, you don't know what to call it. You don't know where to put it. And even just getting that first step, is it the correct IFC class and predefined type? Has it got is it got IFC classification? Those sorts of things. And I think it's pretty low level to aim at. And so that if a contractor is saying we're getting information from someone else, well, here's the minimum we want. And just to get that as a first step, I think would be huge. Because as you know, with IFC objects, if they get exported out as a building element proxy, virtually no property data or quantity data comes out. So you're really hampered in what you can actually do or you use it for. So even that is a first step. And so that's tied to the education side, so people know something about that. And then it's tied to what type of construction model are you getting and at what stage. So it's tied to that. So I think they're the kind of perhaps low level we aim at to help raise maybe the whole waterline for everyone.
And if I may add one thing, I know we are already late, but I will strongly suggest we cannot give exact guidelines, but we can give, or exact templates, but we can give some guidelines, what is important, what's not. And if I may say just a few things. One, first, it will never be a perfect system. First, focus on the most important things. Just to give you example, someone mentioned quantity takeoff. I never saw 100% quantity takeoff generated from Bexel. But if I have it 97%, I lowered my risk from 100% just to 3%. What I presented, someone says, oh, but I don't have model low voltage cables. But you know, if I can manage everything else, or even just the structural and facade works in the system, let's say last planner, if I have a quantities just for that, it's a huge help for me. So just, and the second thing, so just we cannot solve, and it's not good to have a perfect things. We'll never have them, but try to have a fit for purpose principles, and also some general guidelines. So you mentioned now, are we going to define IDS? I would say no, but I can give one advice. So any property, any attribute you ask, when we are involved as a project manager, we said, okay, great thing, client, you ask this, show us a dashboard, report, anywhere where you're using this information. And if the answer is no, then we ask him, okay, why you insist on having some information which you are not using? This will just cause additional time and additional money. And so these are the principles, but the definitely first task is first to finish white paper, make it available to all of you, listen all your feedback, comments, and so on. There are also some things which is not mentioned here. At the moment, to be honest, Building Smart is primarily, we are focused on other phases of the project. So we have not made significant progress related to construction phase. There are a number of concepts still missing. So that might be also a suggestion for future as well.
I have 2 points, not the questions. One point, which is addendum to what Zeljko said, is that this is construction in the construction industry. The project is too complex. In that, what are the attributes you said? I want to add another point, which is very, very important, is the psychology or the mindsets or the soft part of it. This has been a problem of even introducing the BIM to consultants, the EPCs or contractors, and the same thing is going to happen for integrating these people. Are really, really difficult because of the mindsets and the psychological. They wanted to be happy what they are. They don't want to make changes, and that's it. The resistance to change is another thing, and they want to do whatever they have been doing. That's what you say, that they just put a post-it and they send that WhatsApp message. That is how the project getting, updated, and the very, very, shabby stage, and that is what you people need to probably handle it. So this is an addendum. I think you have all agreed to that. And second to other gentleman is that I think you were expecting, or the project managers should get a good model, or the construction guy should get a good model. But I think the basic, the information requirement, which is the basic thing, which was a dialogue was supposed to happen when the contractors need to be brought into the platform. Well, the design is getting generated, whether the requirements are getting really incorporated. If that point is, probably taken care, this question of getting the right model or right way of modeling, a right way of doing things, and where, what, all these questions are being, these were all addressed in ISO, and the basics of ISO, what was it? That is need to be probably incorporated for this to be given an answer by providing information, because information requirement and information, provision or providing, that has to be preceded by the having the information requirement. So that question need to be probably solved, probably addressed first.
I think what are described in standards and even in contract documents, doesn't necessarily lead to the right things being produced. And I mean, the current pain that I know contractors face dealing with the documents that they get delivered highlights that there's a need to actually do something. But I agree, wouldn't it be great if all those requirements were built in up front and agreed to and people produce them? That'd be fantastic.
It's more difficult to get this even asset information model or maybe asset managers to bring onto the platform in the design stage for getting that what is that asset information they require, how they require, where they require, in what format, and all those things. And that is going to be a biggest task probably for us to really make it happen, although it has been intended there. At least let us do something for the construction guys to be bringing into the platform, or the suppliers, when that engineering is getting done. So that may be another point can be added onto this, your white paper, whether this really going to solve, meet the heads together. Really, what is the platform CD is going to be making it for?
Well, it's a complex issue. Contracts have a huge amount to do in dictating the way projects are run. So that's a major thing. But also, I think the responsibilities are quite different. You know, design consultants are quite different from contractors, and then, as you mentioned, asset managers. So we need to kind of make sure that the right people are active in the project at the right time and providing their advice. Well, Laura, do you think we'll draw a line under it, or any other questions, comments? Or is it time for a drink? Oh, should I say that recorded? Okay, thank you for coming. As you can see, the work in the white paper is in progress, so your input would be valued. Thank you for Ken and Ricardo online and Jorge at one point of time. And it would be nice one day if we were all, the construction domain group were in one place physically, and hopefully that will occur soon. So thank you for joining online. Thank you everyone for coming.
Thank you, Ricardo. Thank you, Ken. Thank you, everyone.
And thank you, Laura, again for
Thank you, Laura,
coordinating.
of course.
Things. She's an absolute wizard. So let's give her a clap as well. Things just don't happen.